We didn't want DeSantis. We didn't want Haley. We didn't want Christie. We didn't want Ramaswamy. We didn't want DeSantis. We didn't want anybody. We want him.
What does that say about the Republican Party?
It's not about what it says about the Republican Party. It's about what it says about the Democratic Party.
Why?
Because in the end, if you think about him being impeached twice, 34 felony counts or 34 felony convictions, and they still elected him president, it's not about him winning. It was an indictment against the Democratic Party and what the Democratic Party was offering the American citizens. We might sit up there and talk about, hey, you should be a party for the working class, which the Democratic Party was once known for. They're not known for that right now. Why? Because their message was catering towards others and towards other issues, and they forgot about the people that brought them there, that elevated the Democratic Party to what it was over these last.
Stephen A. Smith walked back onto The View, and you'd think the hosts had amnesia. Had they really forgotten what happened the last time he sat at their table? Back then, he didn't just disagree, he torched their echo chamber, refusing to parrot their Trump-bashing narrative. But this time, he didn't just bring heat, he brought AFLAMETHROWER. Smith went full throttle, unapologetically challenging the panel with cold, inconvenient truths. No pleasantries, no filters, just a brutally honest takedown of the Democratic Party's unraveling strategy, right from the jump. He laid it out. The Democrats are in disarray, and it's not Trump making them look bad. It's them. He didn't mince words. If the best they've got is yelling 34-time convicted felon like it's a magic spell, they've already lost. Because here's the kicker, the American people still picked that guy over their chosen candidate. Let that sink in. You want to label Trump an Go ahead, but what does it say about your platform when voters would rather support him than buy into your agenda? Smith didn't just call out the talking points, he exposed the playbook. He suggested what millions are already whispering. The DOJ wasn't serving justice, it was serving politics. Twisted laws, bent courts, and the result, not Trump's downfall. Their own credibility scorched. Smith's words didn't just silence the table, they echoed far beyond it. Because, when the smoke cleared, one thing was obvious. He didn't come to play. He came to expose.
We've been in office for 6 weeks. Seems like 6 years, doesn't it? And he's been going around with his cronies touting his so-called landslide and blowout win. But he won the popular vote by 1.5%, one of the smallest ever, and he won the general election by less than 50%. So what kind of mandate is this really?
Well, it is a mandate, and I'm going to explain why. And I don't mind the question, but let me be very clear. I'm no supporter of Trump. I'm a supporter of truth and the facts. And here's the facts. The man won every swing state. He increased in terms of his voter turnout in his favor from the standpoint of blacks, Latinos, and young voters. He increased his numbers in that regard from 2020. 89% of the counties shifted to the right. That's a mandate. I don't understand how people can look at that and say, there's no mandate.
Now the Democrats are scrambling for damage control, insisting Trump's landslide win wasn't a mandate, just a fluke, a glitch in the matrix. Why? Because facing the truth would mean swallowing the bitter pill of total rejection. But Stephen A. Smith wasn't about to let them off easy. He hit them with a cold dose of reality. No spin, no fluff. Yes, it was a mandate, and pretending otherwise is just emotional bubble wrap. Smith broke it down with brutal clarity. It's like losing a basketball game by 20 points and saying, hey, at least it wasn't 30. Sorry, a blowout is still a blowout, and this one came with aftershocks. When deep blue strongholds like California and Illinois almost flipped red. That's not just political noise, that's a cultural earthquake. When Kamala Harris couldn't flip a single red county in her own party's favor. That's not a messaging issue, that's a nationwide rejection. The Democrats hold zero power, not in the House, not in the Senate, not in the White House. Yet somehow, they still cling to the idea that Trump's win didn't mean anything. Let's be honest. Your party has become so deeply unpopular that Americans overwhelmingly chose the man you've labeled a felon and insurrectionist. And they did. It in a landslide.
The Democratic Party was disseminating. I'm challenging you on that. That is not what they were doing. I'm not talking about the intent.
We did it.
I was here too. I was alive and breathing right here on the air talking to everybody else. The bottom line is this, you're Joe Biden. You opened borders. Now remember, Barack Obama deported more people than Trump did. You know what he didn't do? He didn't stick out his chest and bloviate about it. He just did it. What does Joe Biden do? Who is a Democrat? Who's the vice president under Barack Obama? He opens borders. Over 12 plus million people enter the country. The biggest point I'm making.
He just took the key and just opened up a door?
He just took, well, that's part of it. Even the Democrats say,
Sonny Hostin, with that familiar smug grin, cocked her head and fired off a sarcastic jab. So what? Biden just opened the border. Without missing a beat, Stephen A. Smith hit back calm, collected, and armed with facts. Yes, Sonny, exactly what he did. He didn't yell. He didn't flinch. He just let the numbers speak. Under Donald Trump, executive action alone drove illegal border crossings to 20-year lows. No flashy new legislation, no congressional drama, just results. Then Biden walked in with a pen and erased it all. With a few strokes of executive ink, the gates were flung open. And now, over 12 million illegal crossings later, the country is staring down a border crisis that didn't just happen, it was invited. And just as Smith drops that harsh reality like a mic, they wheel out the cleanup crew, Karine Jean, arguably the most baffling press secretary in recent memory. Her first move, deny everything. It wasn't a mandate, she insists. Watch this.
She said, nice to meet you, nice to meet you. I disagree with you.
Yeah, I do.
And I was curious, and so that's why I was curious.
I do, on the mandate, on Donald Trump and his administration having a mandate. And we have to be super mindful and careful of this because he does not have a mandate. And what I mean by that is if you look at the numbers, just look at the facts. He won with the smallest margin of the popular vote since the 19th century. There was no coattail, meaning that it is the House is at a razor thin, and he's on his way in the first 100 days to be the most unpopular president in their first 100 days. That is not.
You almost have to laugh. It's like they sent Karine Jean-Pierre out right after Stephen A. Smith just to sweep up the shattered egos and mop up the rhetorical mess he left behind. Her role: comfort the panel, whisper reassurances, and pretend the building isn't still on fire. But this moment wasn't just about cleanup. It revealed a deeper issue, one that's become all too familiar. Democrats have built an identity around being college educated, as if that alone makes them morally or intellectually superior. Why? Because they need to justify those six-figure student loans and Ivy League name tags. It's not education anymore, it's elitist validation. The idea that working-class MAGA voters, plumbers, welders, truckers could be more grounded, more aware, or even more intelligent than the elite, that shakes their entire worldview. So instead of facing that discomfort, they retreat to familiar scapegoats: racism, sexism, misinformation, anything but self-reflection. And just as the excuses start stacking up, Alyssa Farah Griffin steps in and cuts through it all with one simple truth. Does it really matter if it was a mandate? The guy won. Watch this.
The question is, does it matter if he has both houses of Congress and the White House?
It does matter because right now we have, what we're seeing in this administration is he's taking a wrecking ball to the government. And what that means is so that people really understand as folks are sitting here and watching. There are folks who have been fired from the federal government, and now, is our water safe, right? Is our food safe?
Right.
Are the skies
Right, and the skies, right? We have to worry about
safe.
getting on a plane. Is that going to be safe?
There's going to be a pandemic.
Is there going to be a pandemic? And not only that, folks who need their Social Security check,
Yeah.
are you going to get it?
Yeah.
I mean, that is real. And they're doing it without concern of the fallout.
Right. They don't care.
And that is something that and look, I
I'm
understand.
pretty sure people didn't vote for those things.
So what does Karine Jean-Pierre do in response? She dives headfirst into the Democrats' greatest hits album, and it's all fear-mongering. They'll cut Medicare. They'll slash Social Security. Planes will fall out of the sky. The government will shut down. Same tired chorus, different day. Why this broken record? Because they've got nothing else. No wins, no real results, just recycled panic. And the cracks are starting to show. They're losing in court, losing at the ballot box, losing in the court of public opinion. And deep down they know exactly why. Trump's policies worked. People felt it. Jobs came back. Prices dropped. Borders were secure. And the terrifying part for Democrats, if Trump gets another shot and actually starts fixing things again, their whole house of cards could collapse. So they don't try to solve problems. They just try to scare the people living with them. Then, just when you think it can't get more absurd, comedy gold. While desperately trying to defend Joe Biden, Karine Jean-Pierre blurts out something wild. She barely even saw him because he was so isolated. Dead silence. Even Whoopi has to cut to commercial as everyone processes what just happened. Karine just accidentally confirmed the exact thing they've been denying for months. Watch this.
Shocking what I saw. But I also, I can't speculate, right? I don't know what would have happened. And anybody who says they do, they don't really know. And so I don't want to go to rehash the past. I don't think that's a good idea. Right now, again, 5-alarm fire, we need to move with strategy, with focus, and the Democratic Party needs to actually answer those questions that I put forth. Who are we and what are we fighting?
And how do we
for?
meet the moment?
And how do we meet
As
the moment?
Press secretary, you were also an assistant to the president, so
Yeah.
that meant you were able to interact with the campaign off time.
Actually,
Did you
I could not I had a special kind of role as a press secretary. I did not interact with it.
so you had no, as,
No, I did
as a
not.
commissioned officer.
I
the
could
president
not.
did.
Because
So you
as
had
a press
no
secretary.
insight into the polling that showed she would have lost every
I
swing
did
state?
not
That ship has
because
sailed.
Well, it does matter, though.
Okay, here's
Like,
what's
you
going to
can
happen.
flail
Hold
our
on.
about
We're going
Trump,
to take
but it
over. We're
matters.
gonna-
Karine Jean-Pierre just let the mask slip and confirmed exactly what the Wall Street Journal had already exposed. Joe Biden has been so hidden, so isolated, that even his own cabinet rarely sees him. Staff meetings, practically none. Leadership, Mia. And as the air grew thick with awkward tension, Alyssa Farah Griffin tried to cut through it with a dose of reality. This kind of matters, she pointed out, carefully, but firmly. But before that thought could even land, Whoopi Goldberg jumped in like a goalie on defense. "We're going to commercial," she declared, almost in panic mode. Of course they were. Stephen A. Smith had already turned their narrative inside out earlier in the show. And now Karine was piling on, accidentally delivering blows to her own side. It wasn't just a misstep. It was a full-on self-inflicted wound. Broadcast live. And that moment revealed something bigger, the desperation setting in across the Democrat media machine. They're not worried about border security, inflation, or even Biden's glaring lack of presence. What really scares them, it's that Donald Trump, for all their attacks, is showing Americans what leadership actually looks like and reminding them what it used to feel like. Let's talk about what they're really afraid